I've just come from Bahia, La Pattaya. I'm going to go up to the Mirador, retrace my steps, and up towards Laguna Verde. The park is laid out very nicely with nice features for viewing it. Although it should, they get a lot of money from tourists principally. That point in the middle on the right is Trail 6. This entire country will someday be one of the great playgrounds of Earth. Walking through this dense bit of woods is a very lovely woody fragrance. It seems amazing to me that with these little grassy patches, there are no large animals here, except for tame horses. And not only are there these little patches of rich grass inside the wooded areas, but also there are little meadows about. That little patch just makes you want to go inside of it and lie down. Of course, that might be destructive to those plants. They might also be on wet ground. But that's the image that it conjures up for me. Senda del Turbal is the crossover trail from 3 to 4 and 5 that I pointed out on the map, so I'll do that here. I can hear the road where Senda del Mirador number 3 intersects. See, this tree is covered with those, what I called anyway, whatever I called it, but what I think are parasites, and I think they really are. And also notice that there are those little round balls that we see on those bulges that the trees had. Okay, here's another area of dead trees. What looks like standing water and considerable devastation. Why this was caused, I don't know, except that maybe this is from left to right downhill, and the beaver dammed it up somewhere downhill a little ways. Now from this vantage point you can clearly see a dam. Whether it was built by beavers and then mudded up, or whether it was built by man, I can't tell. Here's those little plants with little red berries on them. These are a little bit smaller than I think ones I saw before I went to Antarctica here. And notice the pretty little white flowers. My guess is that they're about less than 1/4 of an inch in diameter. My guess is that right in this spot here was another dam. I can only imagine that beaver built it and they just took that long to decide it was time to do something, and by then most of the destruction had occurred. Now there are signs prohibiting you to pass. Why would you? Some of these pathways that I'm walking seem like they might have been roads in the past, particularly this one right here, which is not part of a trail. And my guess is that all this area was logged off at one time. And back in here you can see stumps that would appear to validate that. A little bit confusing, but I am going to go left, which I think is where Lapitaria, it really means when it goes, that arrow straight up. The trail is clearly to the left, and that'll take me back where I started, and I'll pick up 5 and come back to 4. Here's an old fence, but what its purpose was or is, I don't know. There's a trail on the other side, something walks it. So some critter roams around here. Don't think it would be a dog, they're not allowed. I'm gonna guess it'd be about the size of a large squirrel or skunk or marten. Here's a little microsystem based on a continuous, I think, but not much water. It keeps that what looks like a moss but may not be. And then this kind of grass, things similar to it I've seen in swampy areas. Trees are still able to grow, I think. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a line diagonally from there down to the lower left-hand corner, indicating it's a trail for something, probably small mammals like mice, something along that line. Earlier today I saw a hawk the size of a red-tailed hawk. It was a mottled brown one, and that must be what it feeds on. Where I am right now is right above my thumb, right to the left of where the bus icon is, where number 4 has intersected at its southern end with the main dark road. So I'm going to walk up the road a little bit and pick up 5. So I've just come down here, which is Senda del Turbal, which I'm calling the number 4. Which came from that crossover trail. And up here a little ways should be number 5. Here are some roadside flowers that don't look altogether unfamiliar. I'm on Route 5, I think. I say I think because there wasn't any sign on the road. That's because I think the sign came earlier when the trail was started on the other side of the road somewhere. Anyway. Looking down into this creek bed, I do see some tracks in the mud. That will give us a clue as to what kind of animal it might be. It was a fairly good size. I'd say from this distance they're about 3 inches across to where the knuckles would be. And they look to be about 4 inches long, maybe. I think the sign identifies the nearby creek, but may also identify what I think is the continuation of trail number 5, which is to the left behind that sign, or in front of that sign rather. Doesn't say, but I'm guessing it is. Don't wonder why I get lost all the time. Here's another trail which I intersected a few feet up ahead of us. So maybe this is part of 5, I don't know, but it's pretty obvious. Okay, here's a sign for 5. So I am now officially on 5, which is at this point very well marked. Okay, this is a sign that explains that in 1946 they introduced beaver for some purpose, and without competitors they multiplied beyond belief and destroyed a great deal of the area here and probably anywhere that they could ultimately migrate to. Certainly not an unfamiliar sight in Wyoming. I wonder, though, if beaver continued to maintain this, or whether it functions, obviously, on its own. If so, it's a great testament to their incredible building skills. Okay, this sign, I believe, indicates that they try to control the population of the beavers and minimize their impact. So it appears that by implication, without being able to read the rest of it, beaver still exist and function here, albeit controlled. What I don't see is not only the beaver, but a beaver house. Now it may be that these beaver find their home lodgings by burrowing a hole in the banks alongside this pond. This is another Senda del Turbo, taking me from the end of 5 to, I imagine, the road, so I can continue my walk until I come to trail number 2.